Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 5:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Well, Joe Biden's always trying to figure out new and creative ways to take your money and give it to someone else, in particular people who are going to vote for him. And that includes federal government employees who are already taking money from you in the form of their salaries, who are now having their student loans forgiven. Thanks, Joe Biden. Thanks, Joe Biden. Story on that this week. There's a man by the name of Ben Kamens. He's the communications director for Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur, Democrat of Ohio. And he posted on X this week, quote, "Just got a call to let me know my student debt has been canceled. This is why elections matter. Thanks, Joe Biden." Can you imagine that? An adult man bragging that someone else paid his bills. That, not a sense of shame in the world. This guy, thanks, Joe Biden. Kamens' two loans were taken out in 2010. The original principal on the balance were $2,750 and $5,500, respectively. And he's thanking Joe Biden. Since then, what's ended up happening is lots of people have reacted to it saying, hey, why do you get to steal my money? How did that happen? Why are you bragging about all of this? And he has deleted the tweet. And actually, he's locked down his entire Twitter account now because he's taken on too much incoming. Well, I hate to tell Ben, but more incoming on the way. Angela Morabito joins us now. She's a spokeswoman for the Defense of Freedom Institute and a former Department of Education press secretary under Betsy DeVos. Angela, great to have you back with us.
It's great to be with you, Vince.
Angela, could you imagine, you served as a press secretary under the Department of Education. Could you ever imagine tweeting, hey, taxpayers, not only are you paying my salary, but you just paid off my student loans?
I could not, because the first rule of working in communications in D.C. is that the staff should never be the story. And here we have this person who's decided to make his own name synonymous with a government bailout of student loans for the rest of his career. It boggles the mind why he thought this was a good idea, but he obviously thinks it's just fine to have blue-collar folks, including people who never went to college, pay off his student debt. So it's a real lack of judgment here in a couple different ways.
He's had this debt for 14 years now. 2010 apparently is when he took the loans out, as Sean Davis points out from the Federalist. Last year, this guy was paid more than $80,000 by taxpayers. And now taxpayers have to cover his $8,000 balance on his loans. I mean, I would be ashamed of this. I don't know if I'd ever tell anybody that I had my loans paid off this way.
Yeah, and his tweet tells us that vote buying works, that Biden is very able to get support from people who want others to pay off their debt. And he's doing that on the backs of the taxpayer. Now, let's think about expanding out this person, Ben Kamens, to the rest of the country on the macro level.
Yeah.
Just a couple days ago, the Congressional Budget Office announced that it was hiking its deficit estimate by $400 billion. And the number one driver of that increase was student loan forgiveness. So there are probably a zillion Ben Kamenses out there in the world.
Yes.
And all of them are threatening the future financial health of the country.
So what that means is not only are you paying off his student loans, that the truck drivers of the world are paying off Ben Kamens' student loans, but additionally, this has an inflationary impact, just as an economic principle, which, the cost of everything is rising because of this out of control government spending. So we're being hit all over the place.
We are. It's bigger than just education, just like it's bigger than just one person. Biden seems to think that we can print and borrow money in perpetuity and that it will just benefit him politically and nobody will ever have to worry. But that's just not how money works. The same people who don't know how to balance the budget or don't care to also seem to think that wiping out all this debt is a good idea. Now, let's be real. This debt doesn't get wiped out. The college has already been paid. So what this debt forgiveness does is it continues to write checks to universities, regardless of whether or not they're actually serving their students. It perpetuates a lack of accountability both from the borrower and from the college they attended.
No question. Now, the fact that this guy, Ben Kamens, again, he's a comms director for Marcy Kaptur, the congresswoman, Democrat, the fact that he deleted this X post and that he has actually locked down his entire account suggests to me that people really don't like this Biden scheme, to the point that even, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats are now hiding the evidence that they've had their loans forgiven.
Yes, it is not something to be proud of when you're placing a financial burden on your fellow taxpayer. And look, sometimes that's unavoidable. If someone is disabled due to military service, or they qualify for another loan forgiveness program that was written a long time ago, that's understandable. What's not understandable is President Biden continuing to try to circumvent the Supreme Court decision that said you do not have the authority as the executive to unilaterally forgive student loans the way he was trying to do.
Now,
and he bragged on, you want to talk about people who shouldn't be bragging on Twitter? Biden said the Supreme Court tried to stop me, but I won't quit. That's another real misstep here in this entire issue.
Well, it's totally authoritarian. So all of these claims that Donald Trump is somehow the threat to, quote, democracy, Biden is straight up bragging that he is doing his best to defy the United States Supreme Court. It's maddening to see that, and then to have the media carry his water, isn't it, Angela?
It absolutely is. I think that if more people looked at the realities of what student loan forgiveness is, more and more people would oppose it. Because the way that the left has pitched this idea is we're taking care of the little guy. We're doing something good for both individuals and the country. But they're not. A great deal of student debt comes from graduate schools. It comes from people who are statistically the highest earners. And there is no world in which it is fair or right to have truck drivers, plumbers, electricians paying off the loans of doctors, lawyers, and engineers.
No, not at all. And in fact, I saw early on in this debate when Biden started announcing all of these giveaways, all of this reallocation of people's hard-earned money, that Harvard law graduates are free to get some of this money. It's insane to me. You're like, well, you're on a good track. You're gonna do all right in life. You graduated from Harvard Law School. It's pretty obvious. The evidence shows that you'll succeed. And even those people are receiving money from this giveaway that is truly robbing middle-class taxpayers.
They are. Now, Harvard seems to have done everything it possibly can to tank its own reputation in the past year or so, but still, that Harvard degree carries some weight. At least it should. And you've got people who are the very highest earners in society being bailed out by people toward the bottom of that spectrum. Yeah. It's not fair. And for people who call themselves progressives, as they tout this sort of thing, it's really a regressive policy.
Have you ever seen such a nakedly obvious vote buying scheme as the one that we're seeing now with this?
I can't say I have. This is pretty blatantly dollars for votes. And it's dollars for votes that is targeted to a specific group of people that Biden believes he can essentially purchase votes from. It's patently ridiculous. Everyone knows it's happening. And yet you've got people like Ben Kamens saying this is why, voting for Biden is great because this is what he'll do for you. It's brazen, and he accidentally told on himself because of what he's getting out of this deal. He's very probably going to vote for President Biden. Well, it's his words, not mine, and it tells you what's going on.
I'm so glad that he deleted the X post and locked down his account. It's a happy ending to this story because it demonstrates that this is blowing up in the face of the left, and it should because they deserve that. It's so crazy what they're doing. It's robbery. Angela Morabito, thank you as always for your excellent commentary and your thoughts today. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Vince. I really appreciate it, too.
It's Angela Morabito with the Defense of Freedom Institute and formerly with the Department of Education during the Trump administration. Your calls are coming in, as they so often do, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Jim is in Fredericksburg on line one. Jim has been waiting nice and patiently and wants to talk about what President Trump should do in the debate next week. Hello, Jim.
Well, hey, Vince, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I suggest that President Trump, during the debate, instead of referring to Biden as Joe or Biden or even President, he should call him the big guy at the beginning of every statement.
Yeah, like right at the beginning of the debate, in fact, when normally the candidates thank everybody. I want to thank the American people for watching this. Thank you, CNN, for hosting. And thank you to the big guy for being here. Really appreciate you standing on this stage with me. I didn't think you'd be up to it. Yeah, that's a great idea. So throughout, just remind people that the big guy, the guy who gets 10% of all the take, is Joe Biden, Jim.
And it might cause Google to light up with who is the big guy, and it would refer back to Biden.
Yeah, well, yeah, until Google intercepts it, of course.
That's right.
Thank you, Jim. That's a smart point. Let us see here. Penny is calling in from Burke, also wants to weigh in on the debate. Line 5. Penny, good afternoon. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. I think that we need to remember that we're working with CNN on this. And if Joe Biden has selected a position, and then that means that Trump gets last comment, if I were CNN, I would just leave the broadcast before Donald Trump gets really, is able to make his final statement, and that's how you screw him.
Oh, you mean they would cut to commercial or something as President Trump is giving his final statement? They would play him out. They would do the award show music. Yeah. And say, hey, sorry, we're out of time. No more time for you.
Yeah, and once it's gone, and it doesn't matter what's done after that. And they would just be standing there saying, but, yeah. And that's how. So I don't think that Biden chose this. I think he was told, choose this, and this is. And then we'll do this.
I want people to understand what you're saying. Penny's talking about how today the news is that there was a coin toss to decide which candidate got to do which thing during the debate. They did a coin toss. Biden won the coin toss, because the coin was loaded, let's be honest. And Biden wins the coin toss, and so he gets one of two options. He gets to either choose his podium position or he gets to choose who goes last for closing statements. The Biden team chose podium for some reason. They said, actually, let's just put Joe on the right side. That's senseless in any normal world. You would pick, if anybody else had an opportunity, you would pick who goes last for the closing statement. And Penny, your suspicion is that this is a rigged game, that Donald Trump will go last in that closing statement now, and that CNN will cut him off before he gets his remarks out.
Yeah, they'll blame it on an intern or something and say, "Oh, we didn't mean to do that." But once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. All right. We'll see. We'll see if Penny's prediction comes true next week on CNN as these two debate. Thank you, Penny. I appreciate the call.
Right. Thanks,
on
man.
that. Let us see here. Laura is calling in from Manassas, line 8. Laura, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
You're awesome. This whole show is awesome. The whole channel is awesome.
Well, thank you.
No problem. So I was calling in because I know that you've been talking a lot about, it's the Harvard grads, it's the higher ups and stuff like that. Well, I, really thought my student loans were not going to be forgiven since they were from Corinthians College. And if you remember, like a year or so back, Kamala and Biden and all them were like, we're going to, forgive everybody from Corinthians College. Well, I went through Everest, but it's still part of Corinthians. Mm-hmm. And mine was never forgiven. And I've been harassed, like literally harassed by Moila, which my student loans were sold from Sallie Mae to them, I think back in like 2020, 2021 or something.
Okay.
So when they tried to start back up and they're like, give us our money, give us our money, give us our money. I'm like, no, I ain't talking to you people because I, spent the majority of COVID on TikTok.
Yeah.
You don't talk to people that, bought your student loans. So I did that and everything, and finally, I just got a check cut for $8,630, saying student loan federal forgiveness.
From who?
Refund.
From federal forgiveness. Is Joe Biden's name on it?
No, it does not. It has the Treasury Department.
It's the Treasury Department. So they've sent you money
like
from
one of those colored pretty tax checks.
Got it. They sent you money from the American taxpayer. Is that the balance of your loans? The $8,000?
No. Actually, my loans were $3,148.
Wait, what? So you have just over $3,000 in obligations still, and the federal government just sent you $8,000 in taxpayer money?
And this is from 2010, by the way.
Right, but you just received a check for $8,000, and you have a $3,100 balance. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So what are you going to do?
I have left to pay. I'm going to cash the damn check. Sorry if I'm not allowed to say that.
You can say it. Yeah. So the federal government sent you way more money.
Gave me a daggone check.
Yeah, but you don't need that money, Laura. And in fact, you took the loan out. So why not just repay it?
Yeah, I took the loan out for over $15,000.
Right.
I only had that little bit left.
I'm following. But they sent you money way in excess of what your actual balance is.
I know. I'm not going to say sorry about that.
But you do realize where that money came from, right, Laura?
Other people.
Yeah, for sure. Other people. Yeah, that's why people are recoiling. So what you've added to is the saga of how deeply unfair this is.
Exactly, Bidenomics. But you know what? For the person in Harvard, they got like an $80,000,
right.
Relief. I mean, my little $3,000 is like so much to me. I'm a single mama too.
Yep.
I've been struggling. I lost my job during COVID because that stupid shot mandate. My career, my 401k, I lost everything.
Right. And so if you got $8,000 for a $3,100 balance, what you're pointing out is that there are all sorts of people who are probably being sent a ton of money that is way in excess of their balances, adding to how deeply unfair this whole arrangement is in the first place.
Yep, you have no idea. I have so much information. Like, you remember the January 6th insurrection or whatever, where they had the National Guard there for 4+ months?
Yeah, I recall.
Yeah, that's a couple $1 trillion that I know how much those soldiers were paid because I was talking to one the entire time.
Pretty wild. And it was all security theater
so
too.
Much information and stuff like from friends of mine in the military and from all over different points of government, being in Northern Virginia, that guy's Bidenomics or whatever, I swear he spent so much ridiculous amounts of excess money. And
for sure.
Like horrible. And I mean, if Trump comes back in, the only bad thing that I could say about what he did, which was a great thing, it was because I'm one of the healthy people, but he did cut off my insurance. And I couldn't get my mental medication because of it. So for a short time period, like basically if I broke an arm or a leg or like I had a serious ER visit type thing that I needed, I was able to have a partial insurance that I was granted by Trump. But he did cut off my main insurance to my psychiatrist and stuff like that.
Interesting. All right. Well, Laura, thank you for the call. I think you've given us some good information today, even beyond what we already knew about these checks going out. Good afternoon to you. 536 here. News Talk 105.9 WMAL. You can join us 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Always appreciate your contributions. Let's go to the phones. We've got Ryan calling in from Woodbridge, line 6. Ryan, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. I just want to tell that young lady who got extra money for student loan forgiveness, you're welcome. My wife and I work 5 jobs between the two of us so that, she can have a better life. So that's all I got.
Yeah, she called in a moment ago. A listener called in a moment ago. She said she had $3,100 in loans left to pay off. She just got a check from the feds for $8,000. And I asked her what she's going to do with the money, and she said, I'm cashing it. Yeah. And she acknowledged, she said, yeah, I know. Other taxpayers are paying for all of this. And it just adds, Ryan, to the frustration that I think so many of us feel about like what Biden is doing. He's just stealing money from you and from your wife and then just divvying it up in the hopes that the people he gives it to are going to vote for him.
Yeah, it really tweaks me on all the reckless government spending, the $250 million dock to, supply Hamas.
Yeah.
The whole lot of it. It's all a disaster.
Yeah, and it's insult after insult after insult, Ryan. And you wake up each morning and you look at these headlines and you're like, wait, what are they spending my money on now? It's maddening. Ryan, thank you. I appreciate the call. I got Chris calling in.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I got Chris calling in from Marshall, line 5. Chris, good afternoon, sir.
Man, of course, the front line of the heartland. I am madder than a wet hen. I am livid. I usually do 48 hours in a 4-day week. I'm usually off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm pumping hour 12 of an extra shift because of Bidenomics so that I can pay off this mangina student loan that he neglected. If you don't make your car payment, what happens? They repossess your car. If you don't make your mortgage payment, you get foreclosed on. I'm all for student loan forgiveness on 2 bases. One, it comes out of the freaking endowments, these multi-billion-dollar endowments. And 2, we go in with a fish fork and we repossess the degree. We lobotomize these idiots.
You know, it's crazy. I mean, we're not even talking about like a military veteran. We're just talking about a communication staffer for a Democrat member of Congress who just got, he said like $8,000 paid off, and he makes $80,000 a year, and he's like, yeah, I'll take $8,000 from the taxpayer.
You know, it's all a matter of redistribution and of wealth. I'm as mad as Mike from Woodbridge. I know Mike from Woodbridge. He's a pal. And I'm as livid as he is, man. This is all about redistribution of wealth. That's all it is. It's unconstitutional, and it's really starting to not matter because we're never going to be able to pay $34 trillion in debt.
Ugh.
It's going to be the big fat reset in the sky, man.
It kills me. It kills me to even think about it. Then, Chris, you're reminding us today.
10 years later than we think it is.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris, as always, from the front line of the Heartland. There he is, Chris in Marshall. Scott calling in from Castleton, line 6. Scott, sir, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, so I have a student loan. I didn't pay on it for a while, but then I started paying on it, and then I didn't have to during COVID. But the thing is I've been told in my situation that in order to be eligible for the student loan forgiveness, you have to work for the federal government, an NGO, some nonprofit, and you have to have paid on your student loans for 10 years. So I don't know if that lady that got the check qualified or if they're just arbitrarily sending money based on who you voted for or something. I don't know. It just seems like the money is not going to the people that need it. Now, I had told myself if I got student loan forgiveness, I was going to stash that money away and save it and continue to pay on my student loan.
I got it. Well, you're like me. I still have student loans after all these years. We're nearing the end, luckily, but I took the loans. That's my obligation, and I'm going to pay them off. That's the game plan, you know. And yet here you have.
I'm going to pay mine off.
Yeah, and you're in the middle of it. Scott, thank you. I appreciate your call. As always, let's see here. David calling in from Fairfax now, line 5. David, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, David. All right. No David? No David. Okay, let's go to Victor in Rockville. He's on line 9. Victor, good afternoon, sir. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Thank you. I'm recovering from back surgery, and I'm listening to you right now. Listen, if I were a loan officer, a bank officer, a credit union officer, and I saw the application for a mortgage or a car, I would automatically throw them out. How dare you be irresponsible and depend on the federal government for the money? I'm blind and I had to pay on our mortgage.
Yes.
I had to pay my ex off. I didn't complain. I just worked harder and saved a lot more I wouldn't be in a pickle.
You met your obligations. So what do you think when other people are now taking your tax money in order to pay off the loans that they took?
You know what? I have no reason to even talk to these people. They're so irresponsible. They expect the government to do everything for them.
Yeah. Hey, Victor, by the way, I have to say it's been a while since I've talked to you. I'm glad to hear from you, and I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, it's a long haul now. I got to go to rehab, and I'm here now. And I'm just hoping that things will go better my way.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I get home, I'm going to have to pay these bills.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Well, I'm going to say a prayer for you, Victor. It is really nice to hear from you. It's been a very long time since you and I spoke, so nice to have you on the phone today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, it's let's see. We got Mark calling in from Woodbridge on line 8. Mark, good afternoon to you, sir. Hello, Mark.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I am. Hi, Mark.
No, we're in Virginia Beach.
Oh, okay. Well, Mark's in Virginia Beach. We occasionally get it wrong. All right, Mark's in Virginia Beach. Hello, Mark.
No problem. Hey, Vince, that young lady, I hope that the tax man comes for her because obviously, one, she's a nut job. She told us so because of her mental state. Two, I'm pretty sure she is not taking into account that she is going to get a tax liability for that this next tax season. So I hope it hits her square in the rear end and makes it painful.
Well, let me say how I took that call, because I heard her say all that, and she's making a bunch of decisions for herself about how she's going to use that money. But here's the reality. She revealed something, I think, that was important. She got sent way more money than is even in her balance. In other words, suggesting that this is probably happening on a wide scale, Mark, and it just adds to the scandal that's ticking the rest of us off.
Oh, absolutely. We're being taken to the cleaners, and I never entered my mind that they had already implemented this garbage.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you've got members, you have communication staffers for Democrat members of Congress bragging about the money they just took from you. It is maddening, as you point out. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the call on that. Let me see here. I got a Bo calling in from Kensington, line 5. Bo, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Bo.
I just have a few things to say. Georgetown University did a study in 2016, and it found that over the course of a lifetime, people with a bachelor's degree make $1 million more than those who did not get a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
And only 46% of people even start college, and only 13% of the people that go to college get a student loan. So the vast majority of people in this country didn't even graduate from college, let alone borrow the money. They paid for college. Those that went to college paid for it by their parents or by themselves or through a scholarship of some sort. And so what the government is doing is allowing the lucky 13% of people who got to go to college, got a loan and agreed to pay it back.
Right.
They are making the 87% of the population pay for these people. It just doesn't seem like a good political move.
And you're right about the corollary between college degrees and financial success. There's no question that has been the case. There's, of course, many people who are advocating that we need to reorient our thinking around college. College, in many ways, so wasteful. You see so many. Look at the chaos on all of these campuses and the nonsense that's being injected into people's minds. But clearly, there has been a historic connection between earning potential and college degrees. And here, what you're detailing, Bo, is that this is a regressive policy. In other words, lower and middle class people are paying the bills for people who are in a much better situation financially.
That's exactly right, and it just isn't fair.
Yeah, no, and that's what people are recoiling
at. I appreciate you covering this.
That's why Democrats are deleting the evidence of this from their Twitter accounts. They thought this would be a great thing, and of course it's not. Let us see. Kent is calling in from Oklahoma. Always good to get a call from Oklahoma. Line 1. Hello, Kent. You're on the Vince Colonnade Show.
Hello, Vince. You're sounding great, man.
I'm glad to be back. I feel good.
Throat sounds great. I got just something that came to mind. This young lady said she got a check for $8,000.
Yeah.
And she had $3,000 on her loan.
Right.
So they're just assuming she's going to take that $3,000 and pay off the loan. Mm-hmm. Now, if I was a betting man, and I've been known to bet a time or two, I'm betting that $8,000 goes to whatever the hell she wants, and that student loan's still there. If they're going to forgive student loans, which we are the loan holders, by the way, so we get double dipped, just erase the debt, no checks sent out, nothing.
Yeah, and it might not be the case in her case, although she said she's taking the full freight. She's going to keep the $8,000 for herself, so she's going to maybe she pays off that loan. She has $5,000, but your point is well taken broadly, which is that there are any number of people across the country who may make different decisions about how they're going to spend that money that was stolen from others in order to be given to them.
I didn't mean her specifically, but you know they're just giving the money. Do what you want with it. Hopefully you pay back the student loan, but, what if you don't?
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a great point. Where's the accountability? Mm-hmm.
And if even Nancy Pelosi says it stinks, well, then you know it's got to be bad.
That's true. Remember, Nancy Pelosi, as Kent remembers quite well, did say that Biden's not even allowed to do this. She's like, she can't do this, and here he is doing it. And I've noticed she hasn't, changed her remarks at all. Thank you, Kent. I appreciate that call. Let's see. Robert is calling in from Florida. Roberto, on line 4, you are on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, Robert.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to compliment you on how you handle all these different callers that call in, and seem very good for such a young man. I'm guessing maybe the Marine Corps training helped you.
I just want to pause for a moment. It's my father who's the Marine. I guess insofar as I received training, it was from him.
He disciplined you well, I believe.
Robert, thank you. Yeah, it's good. I love talking to people, including people I disagree with, including people who are going to raise issues that I'm like, wait a second, that's an issue that. You might want to think about this.
Several of them that call in were not very nice, and you handled it very well.
Well, thank you, Robert. It's okay. I've got a thick skin. Let us see here. Dawn is calling in from Norfolk on line 7. Dawn, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Yes, good day. I just wanted to add on to the young lady that called in, $8,000, $3,000 student loan. I'm in real estate, a real estate specialist. And, the federal government was giving out all these grants during the COVID thing. Well, I have a friend who's a realtor up in Michigan, and when she took advantage of that situation, a year later, she got a letter from the IRS saying they overpaid her. She had to pay a big portion of it back. She didn't have it no more. She spent it all. She spent it on getting by.
So this
young lady that called in, She might, the young lady that called in, she's like, yeah, I'm going to spend this check. She might. I'm no IRS agent, but you look at how many agents have been hired.
Yeah.
Who's to say? And you got the Clara Piven strategy. You have it from state to state. You have it globally. And who's to say that they don't do it personally? This young lady said she's a single parent, and I'm a mother. And I was a single parent, and I was young. I didn't get no grants. I actually worked 2 jobs when I was a single parent and went to college full time. But that was back in the 80s, and I digress. But this young lady and whoever else knows, anybody that's gotten overpaid, a year later, it might come back and haunt them.
There may be some peril ahead, whether intentional or otherwise, or maybe just good old government inefficiency. Yeah, thank you, Dawn. In fact, I'll hang up on Dawn and I'll go to Laura, because Laura's calling back on line 5. And we don't have a ton of time for this, but I want to get her back on here. She just called in. Laura, you wanted to add a thought on this.
Yeah, I thought I explained it correctly, but days before I got this check today, I was surprised because they forgave my student loans.
So they forgave your loans, and now they're sending you an additional $8,000?
Yes.
And so you just heard from our last caller that the government.
Case with my friend.
Laura, you just heard from the last caller the government may chase you down later on. Are you going to hold on to this money just in case that happens?
No, because I'm perfectly fine and set. I was ready to buy a townhouse in Centerville and stuff during 2020. If it wasn't for COVID and the mandate making me lose my job, my career, my 401k, I was ready to buy a house in Centerville. Do you know how hard that is for a single mama too?
It's hard.
I worked 3 jobs in 2019.
The housing situation is about as difficult as it can be. You can thank Joe Biden for that. Yeah, but be careful with that money. They may come chasing you later. The feds, when they screw up, it's your fault. That tends to be the trend. Thank you. Okay, tomorrow on the program, we'll talk more about the government and all that money they've been stealing from you. Donald Trump does have a solution. He wants to get rid of the federal income tax, and he's been emphasizing that's on tipped wages, too. If you ever make money from tips, he'd like to get rid of the taxes on those tips. That's awesome. We'll explore the economic elements here with EJ Antoni tomorrow. Also, we've got to get into the details of what's going on in Loudoun County. The Loudoun County School Board is trying to shut down dissent, the fascists. We'll explore it on the Vince Coglianese Show tomorrow. The great one, Mark Levin, up next here on WMAL.